For today's meditation, we will read from 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 5 to 14. And the Philistines mustered to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and troops like the sand on the seashore in multitude. They came up and encamped in Michmash to the east of Beth-aven. And the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, for the people were hard-pressed. The people hid themselves in caves and in holes, and in rocks and in tombs and in cisterns. And some Hebrews crossed the fords of the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul was still at Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. He waited 7 days, the time appointed by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering from him. So Saul said, "Bring the burnt offering here to me, and the peace offerings." And he offered the burnt offering. As soon as he had finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. And Saul went out to meet him and greet him. Samuel said, "What have you done?" And Saul said, "When I saw that the people were scattering from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines had mustered in Michmash, I said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the favor of the Lord. So I forced myself and offered the burnt offering." And Samuel said to Saul, "You have done foolishly. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God, with which he commanded you. For then the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be the prince over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you." God used Saul's leadership to deliver the men of Jabesh Gilead from Nahash the Ammonite, who was threatening them with disfiguring and humiliating terms of peace. This turned all Israel's heart to Saul, and a small band of men, about 3,000, remained with Saul when the rest of the volunteer army of around 330,000 men returned to their homes victorious. Saul's son Jonathan was in charge of 1,000 of these men. He defeated a Philistine garrison at Geba. At this news, the Philistines mobilized en masse to Michmash, east of the town of Beth-aven. The courage of the Israelites ebbed at the fearsome sight of 30,000 chariots encamped at this battleground. Instead of gathering to their king and praying to their God for help, they melted away into the caves and hills and holes and rocks, cisterns and tombs. Some even crossed the Jordan River to escape into the land of Gad and Gilead. But Saul remained steadfast at Gilgal, though the small company with him followed him trembling. He was waiting for Samuel to come as he had promised within 7 days, and offer a sacrifice to God to ask his help for King Saul. As the 7th day drew on, more of his men deserted him. Saul began to waver in his faith. The result was 3 fundamental mistakes that ruined his spiritual growth. Firstly, many years ago, the Israelites begged the ungodly priests, the sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, to bring the ark of God into the camp so that they might overcome the Philistines. Making the same mistake, Saul feared to be caught beginning the battle without having sacrificed to the Lord first. He offered the sacrifice himself, though he was not a priest and hence not allowed to perform this service. He did not remember or realize that God looks only on the heart. Worship is not a charm to attract God's help regardless of the state of our hearts. Worship is the fruit of the heartfelt faith and obedience. Obedience is better than sacrifice. If Saul's heart was true to the Lord, he would have received divine help against the enemy, irrespective of the number of men with him, even without a formal sacrifice. But Saul revealed a blind and superstitious reliance on the accessories of religion rather than a knowledge of the God whom they were intended to serve. Secondly, Saul did not wait until Samuel came. God does not lie, and therefore his prophet was bound to arrive within the appointed time. We need patience to sustain our faith until the time when God works out his promise, as he surely will. Impatience comes from lack of faith in God's trustworthiness, the inability to understand that God will always fulfill his promises. Thirdly, Saul was moved by fear because his people were deserting him. He did not show a wholehearted trust in God's power to save. He did not rest in his salvation. He knew the stories of Gideon and how God delivered Israel from thousands of Midianites with just 300 men. Yet, he was afraid because he could not see visible help. He walked not by faith but by sight. Fear is not faith. As a result, his fear led him astray. Like Abraham and Sarah, who were moved by fear lest they should die childless, Saul took his own decision and had to reap the bitter consequences. Hebrews 12:15 says, "See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God." The consequence of this was that he was removed from the kingship. In verse 14, "But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be prince over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you." We have a great price to gain than Saul did. We are fighting a spiritual battle to keep our faith and to become sons of the resurrection, reigning with our Lord forever in his coming kingdom of righteousness. Let us be careful to learn from Saul's costly mistakes. We need to remind ourselves constantly that we are called to walk as seeing the unseen God and obeying him no matter what. We must beware of fear, for it is the enemy of faith. Let us move to obey God on the basis of his promises and his commands alone, not heeding our fleshly fears. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 15 and 16. "See to it, brothers, that none of you has a wicked heart of unbelief that turns away from the living God, but exhort one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. And let us wait with patience till our God fulfills his promise, even if we have to wait until the last moment. For he will not fail to fulfill his word." Hebrews 10:36-37. You need to persevere, so that after you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. For in just a while, he who is coming will come and will not delay. We shall receive what he has promised as a glorious end of our faith. Let us move forward in faith and patience, pleasing God in every step of our way. God bless.